most. But if you hear what anyone having trouble, just please forward the link that you have, please. And we're gonna start in probably about another 5 minutes of trying to let people get signed on. Those who are coming to Van Hoos, the door is locked, so I have to let them in. So we're gonna start in probably about 5:35, if that's okay with everyone. Thank you.
And it says that I can't share my screen.
Okay, I'm gonna make you the host.
Or I can be the co-host.
Okay.
Sorry, I was teaching a U of L class and they were trying to talk and I'm like, I told you I got to do this presentation. You got to answer questions later.
That's why you have that red on today.
Sorry, I was on mute. Ms. Dillard, it's not let me make you the co-host. So when it's your turn, I'll just make you the host, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, has anyone said anything?
Yes, I did earlier.
Okay, not to make sure we had audio. Thanks.
What's that? I'm sorry, Ben.
I want to make sure we had audio. It was so quiet.
Oh, yes.
Jump on first because you're not in here. It's quiet.
Turn that camera around.
Well, at least we know the audio is working very well.
Yeah, that's what I get for asking.
Nothing wrong with mic check. Yeah. Yeah, my other laptop died during COVID, so I was able to get an update. All right. Check. We're gonna start in about another minute. Mhm. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Delquan Dorsey. I'm Community Engagement Coordinator and Supplier Diversity Coordinator in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Department at JCPS. And this is the Advisory Council for Racial Equity meeting. We got a full agenda today, and we have plenty of guests who will be sharing with us. Just from a technical standpoint, please bear with me. Good evening, everyone. We are doing a Zoom virtually, and we having a meeting coordinator here in the first floor conference room at Van Hoos. So we have some people here joining us as well. But we want to go ahead and get started with the council members that are here. We do have new council members as well. So if we could, with the existing council members, we could start off with our officers, but if you can please introduce yourselves. And if you have trouble hearing me because I have my mask on because I'm trying to abide by Van Hoos policy since I'm in the room with the general counsel, please just let me know. I can repeat myself. All right, so Ben, can you start us off, introduce yourself, please?
I'm assuming that was me.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, yes.
Okay, no, couldn't. So anyway, good evening, everyone. Ben Johnson. My day job, I'm the assistant director for Parks and Recreation for Louisville Metro. I'm just giving you all that for reference because that has nothing to do with my involvement or engagement on the committee. I've enjoyed being on here, proud of the work we've done. I want to thank the past and current members and look forward to working with our new additions. Thank you.
All right. Next, another council member, please.
Hi, I'm Mary Barnes. I work at Highland Middle School.
I can go next. My name is Eva Studillo. I'm working with La Casita Center and also very happy to be in this council.
Hi. Oh, I'll mute my.
Hi, I'm Faye Owens, and I'm a retired educator, principal of Mill Creek. I retired in 1999, and I'm glad to be on this committee.
Hi, nope, not gonna work. If you mute yours. All right, there we go. All right, I am Terrence Sullivan. In my day job, I guess, I'm the executive director for the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. And yeah, just wanted to welcome the new members and say thanks to the prior and existing ones. Just it's been good getting to work with everyone and looking forward to getting to know all the new people as well.
Is that all the existing members? Ms. Owens, did you introduce yourself?
I'm Faye Owens, retired elementary principal from Mill Creek Elementary School. I retired in 1999, and I enjoy being on this committee.
Thank you. All right. I guess we can move on to new members. If we can start with Ms. Clark.
Hey, everybody. I am Phyllis Clark. I'm pleased to be here. I am Vice President for Student Affairs at Simmons College of Kentucky. I have been there 7.5 years. And just prior to that, I was at the University of Louisville for 17.
All right, thank you. Glad to have you. Next, Mr. Boyd.
Hi, good evening. Kendall Boyd, Chief Equity Officer for Louisville Metro Government, but tomorrow will be my last day in that role. I will be the new Manager of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity at LG&E Corporation here in Louisville, so I'm going 2 blocks up the street. But I appreciate this opportunity. And for those that don't know, Delquan and I went to school together. So when he asked me to participate, I jumped at the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody on here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Kendall. All right. Next, Dr. Muldrow, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Ebonyuldrow. I'm Assistant Provost for Adult Learning and Degree Completion at the University of Louisville. It is a pleasure to meet you all. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. And Delquan, thank you for the opportunity to serve.
All right, thank you. Next, can we have Dr. Speaks?
Good evening, everyone. I am Danae Speaks. I am the principal of Cochran Elementary School here in Jefferson County Public Schools. It is a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with all of you all, and I look forward to the work.
Okay, and last but not least, Ms. Vasser.
Hello, I'm Mary Vasser, Executive Director of Diversity and Equity here at U of L. Yep, Phyllis, I'm still here, 28 years. I started when I was 4, if you all are calculating. And I'm on so many committees, I don't even know what hat I wear here. So I think 15th District PTSA, I'm their Diversity and Equity VP Chair or something of another. So here I am, I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to serving.
Oh, great job. Yeah. Yes, you do wear a lot of hats. All right. Because time is of the essence, we're gonna go ahead and get started. But before we get started, I'd like to recognize we have our chairwoman, Miss Diane Porter of the Jefferson County Board of Education, joining us. I will let her speak if she wants to.
Good evening, and thank you, everyone. I did not come to talk or to be seen, so thank you. Have a great meeting, and I am muting myself.
All right.
You did as she said.
Yes, thank you, thank you. All right. Okay, I got a note about the wait. Okay, now, filling up real fast. I didn't see the waiting room. Okay.
You need to call this stuff on. The administrative stuff.
All right, so we are, if everyone is good, we're gonna go ahead and let our guests from the Teaching and Learning Department start their presentation so we can have enough time for question and answers. I guess we could go ahead and kick it off with Dr. Carmen Coleman, if that's okay.
Absolutely. It's great to see everybody, and we're excited to be here to share some of the work that we've done. We have made racial equity very much the focus of our work. And so I'm excited and proud for you to get to talk to the team and learn more about what we're doing. So it's also good to see some people I haven't seen for a long time, like Danae. Oh, seeing you makes me want to come down to your school tomorrow. It's so good to see your face. Are you doing okay?
I'm hanging in there. Thank you so much. You can come anytime.
I will for sure. So I am trying to share my screen, or Michelle was there we go. Okay, awesome. And I'm just gonna start here for a minute, and then I'll turn it over to Michelle Dillard, our assistant superintendent for teaching and learning, and truly my right hand and left most days. So a couple of things I wanted to share to start. You've probably heard about our future state work. And as we do that work, we continually focus on a set of level setting questions, we call them. Dr. Marshall and his team created these questions for the future state, but we have found them to be really, really effective just for reflection and continuing to check ourselves in our work every day. So a couple of those that we think about all the time is, one, how does whatever the proposed initiative or action is, how does it weaken racism in our school system? And number two, how does the proposed initiative improve the learning experiences, outcomes, and life chances and opportunities for our Black and Brown students? So those are continually at the center. And then Michelle, if you want to go on to the next slide. So another tool that Dr. Marshall and his team created for Future State that I just think it is so, so good and like to use it in all of my work and the work of my teams. It is this rubric to help us look at the different ideas, initiatives, actions being proposed, and to make sure that it's not just, as Dr. Marshall always says, we're not just wrapping up an old gift in new gift wrap, right? We already have a long list of things that have been tried that are not successful or that just don't go nearly far enough. So our goal is to always try to make sure that we are getting to the column on the far right, which is disruptive first, And then eventually we want, whatever those disruptive actions are to be embedded and just part of what we do. So, you might, when you have a chance, if you haven't gotten to see this, it is a really, really good tool and has been very helpful in our work. So I want to show you those, and then I want to talk about a couple big successes that that I am especially proud of that have happened as a result of our work focused on our racial equity goals. So Michelle, if you'll click on that and open those slides, they're both linked to the same slideshow. So if you'll go to the third slide, Michelle, so you all will see this is what we had. So as you'll see, this chart shows AP, IB, or Cambridge advanced course offerings at each high school and how many they offer. It shows the total dual credit offered and the total CTE pathways offered. So this was before, until this year. So for example, let's just look at Atherton. It's on the top. They had 26 advanced courses, 16 dual credit offerings, and 9 CTE pathways. And then you might look at Shawnee, and they had 1 advanced offering, 5 dual credit offerings, and 8 CTE pathways. So this paints as about as strong of a picture of inequity as you'll ever see. I mean, it's very clear. And it's very often, this was not the fault of the principal necessarily or the school council. Very much so for dual credit courses, even if Kim at Shawnee, and I'll use her because I know that this is the case for her, she desperately wanted to have those offerings for her students. But it is very, very difficult to find teachers who are certified to do that. You have to have teachers that are certified both in teaching and in a content area. So it was just very, very difficult. So one of the goals that we have had is to make, no matter where a student is in school, make it so that they have access to these high level courses. So Michelle, if you'll go on, go click a couple times, you'll come to a new slide that shows, okay. So now, starting this year, these classes, these dual credit courses are offered for every student across the district. So no longer are they limited by where they attend school. This is huge. I cannot tell you how excited we were about this and are about this. So this is big. So that means that when kids take these courses, then they have not only high school credit toward graduation, but college credit too. If you'll go on, Michelle, to the next slide, that's just some more information. Go on till you see AP. Yeah. So we're still working on AP and CTE, but go back one, Michelle, I think, to that chart. You'll see that, yeah, perfect. We also, now this will continue to build on this, but we also now have 7 AP classes that are available no matter where you're in school to every student. We also have the CTE virtual course offerings on the right that are available to every student in the district, no matter where they go to school. So it's still not, AP is still not where we want it to be. We're working on that. and that will continue to grow. But these are big deals. I mean, these are the kinds of things that are game changers for our students. And so we're super excited about that. Of course, with COVID, of course, everything has been complicated. But I anticipate that enrollment will continue to grow, and we'll have even more students taking advantage of this in the spring than we do in the fall. This plan was developed and became a possibility pretty close to school starting. And so, but over the semester, counselors and principals will have a chance to work with students to help them get into those classes in the spring too. So I just wanted to share that. I'm super excited about that. And with that, I'll turn it over now to Michelle Dillard to share a little bit more about what's happening in teaching and learning.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Coleman, for that. As she stated, I am Michelle Dillard, the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. I've been in this role currently now for about, I guess about 9 months now, going on about 9 months for that. And so I'm really excited to be here. Previously, I was the Assistant Superintendent over middle schools, and we had a lot of success with our middle schools. And so we are leading, learning, and impacting here in the teaching and learning department. And so I just wanted to be able to share with you some things that we are doing here tonight with our teaching and learning that goes in with our racial equity and how we are supporting that. And you've heard some things for Dr. Coleman, and you're going to hear from some others of my leadership team. I do have a pretty large leadership team. When you think about teaching and learning, we encompass all of our curriculum and instruction, grading, literacy, library media, MTSS, our Title I and gifted, professional development, professional learning, and leadership. So we encompass a very large part of what happens with our district when it comes to curriculum and instruction. And because we truly believe in the work of the district and working with the racial equity as it is one of our pillars, I just wanted to share briefly with you before I turn it over to different ones on the leadership team that we have began, and it is in draft form, our actual teaching and learning racial equity improvement plan. So what are we focusing on? And I'm not going to go through the whole document, but it is in our slide deck. And Delquan, you can share this slide deck with the others because there's a lot of great information and links in here. But what is it that we're going to be focusing on specifically to help with the racial inequities in addressing the improvement strategy? So for teaching and learning, we have decided to focus on reducing the racial disparity that exists in reading. That is something that every one of us, as far as on our leadership team, can play a part into that. And so when we look at how do we know this and what data demonstrates the inequity, then we have looked and chosen to look at our NWA, so our MAP data that we have, and we have currently have students like taking that now. And then we used our 18-19 K-Prep data because that's what we had to be able to, look at that. So we know that there are different disparities, and I just wanted to share with you so that you would know. And we've got Brigance, and then we also have our CCR data as well, so that we were looking at. And so one of our goals, and this goes right along with the district racial equity. So what is our long-term outcome be able to help impact this. And so teaching and learning will provide supports in schools in order to increase the number of students that are proficient or distinguished in reading, 18.8% from 31.2% in 2021 to 50% in 21-22 as measured by the K-PREP. So everyone knows that's the state assessment that we take. So I wanted to just, share that with you to let you know that we are very serious about the work that is taking place in our teaching and learning department. And I am going to turn this over now to all of our leaders on here are fabulous. And you will see and hear. And as I said, there's a lot of information because we are a very large department that really has to deal with the curriculum and instruction of the entire district. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Susan Price, who will talk to you about CDLI and what they have done to weaken racism in schools. And so she will talk to you briefly, and then the next person, she will have the next person to just go ahead after her, and then I will close us up in the end. So Champion Price.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to share all the great things that we are doing in teaching and learning. My name is Susan Price. I'm the Executive Director for Curriculum Design and Learning Innovation. So what I've chosen to do is my department, we put together was we've been working on the racial equity plan and how the things that we're actually doing in our department touches the seats of the students and really does help to weaken racism. So I'm just going to highlight some of the work that we're doing. And then in the presentation, there are slides for the deeper learning team in each of my departments. And so you can click on those slides as you're looking at that and really see, specifically what each one of the, content areas and deeper learning are doing. But some of the things that we're doing across the board in CDLI is we have integrated the R tool in our backwards design templates, in our assignment review protocols, in our curriculum and our instructional frameworks. Those are all living documents that provide resources for teachers. And so we are always collaborating with DEP and other departments to ensure that the resources that we're providing for teachers are racially equitable, and they provide culturally responsive teaching resources for them. We also try, as we're providing professional learning, to recruit a diverse group of teachers and leaders and community members. For example, in our Deeper Learning Symposium, we have monthly math academies. We have a new cohort called Developing Black Historical Consciousness that's led by Dr. LeGarrette King, Ryan New, and a teacher leader, Angela Clay, who is an amazing teacher out at Du Bois Academy. We also really advocate and train our educators to provide learning opportunities that really honor voices, different perspectives, experiences, and different cultures. And one of that examples of that is our MICVA cohort, which is really just a living civics curriculum. We provide professional learning where we're trying to really promote pedagogical shifts so that, all learners, their voices are heard and they see themselves in the curriculum and in the materials that we're providing for our teachers. Our math teacher leaders have engaged with equity strides. They've used culturally responsive teaching in the brain by Zaretta Hammonds, the impact of identifying K-8 mathematics and so just a lot of learning tools that reflect biases and helping understand. Of course, our building implementation teams in mathematics looks at the use of our racially equitable teaching practices, and they use the KMIT for that. And in their slide, you can actually see data over the last 3 years for our middle schools. Of course, Dr. Coleman talked about expanding our AP and our dual credit classes. We're excited that this year we're going to be able to provide the JCPS Seal of Biliteracy, which will be open and available to all of our JCPS students who meet English language proficiency and their native language. So that's a new opportunity for world language proficiencies. Of course, in social studies, as I mentioned, we've developed that cohort around developing Black historical consciousness. That's also an elective. I actually just left their first cohort meeting, and it was just so interesting, and it was just so enriching to see so many educators across JCPS, and they were looking at sources and such rich curriculum resources that's provided. And really just at the heart of our curriculum, if you saw in the rubric that we were just showing, it talked about one of the old practices of stand and deliver. And so what we've really tried to do in our curriculum frameworks is really base that on inquiry-based learning, so that, it enables our teachers to scaffold learning, to develop culturally responsive environments, which, really means developing those relationships with our students, actually, in co-participating in question sources, and just to really build critical and historical thinking skills. So we're just really, again, we're really proud of the work that we've done in CDLI, as we have that lens, and that is a laser focus. So I'm really excited for you all to dig into the slides that follow to see, what really specifically each content is doing to support the racial equity policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Champion Price. So you will see that the following slides, as she mentioned, goes into different departments. And there are different things here that you can go deeper into those when you have the opportunity to look at how things are aligned. So Jesse, was yours within the literacy part?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna go back. I thought that was yours, so I'll go back and we have a separate literacy department that we work with our elementary, and each person is only gonna take no longer than 2 minutes, about a minute to go through, because we want to give you time to ask questions. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. Jesse Mattil, the manager of literacy support for the district. First, we're very proud of our work with the Literacy Footprints digital reader, where all of our K-5 students had equitable access to a digital tool during the pandemic. We led the nation in implementation, where our students have read over 717,809 books to date. So all K-5 students, Newcomer Academy, as well as all state agency schools have access to these books at home, have access to these books at any time of day. We have students reading at 3 a.m., 10 at night, and it just provides that access at any point for independent reading and familiar reading. We also partnered with CDLI and a text analysis and review to ensure our curriculum frameworks included culturally relevant text and culturally conscious text. That is an ongoing process. So anytime we pull in a new book, it will go through that same protocol and filtration. We also promote and invest in culturally relevant and authentic text. Again, we have the print material for Literacy Footprints for every single elementary participating school in the Jan Richardson partnership. We promote the use of Lee and Lowe books, Fountas and Pinnell, and we also invested in some scholastic short reads, which were called Our World, with an intense focus on cultural relevance. We also provide ongoing critical literacy professional learning. 2 of those sessions were part of the Jan Richardson partnership, but again, that's part of our ongoing messaging. And finally, with our emphasis on small group through the instructional framework, we've been partnering with Jan Richardson, a guided reading expert, as well as our newest partnership, Jennifer Saravallo, for writing small group instruction to meet the individualized and differentiated needs of our students.
Thank you, Champion Mattil.
Thank
As
you.
you can see that we are very serious about racial equity and what we have to offer our students here in JCPS. And next up, we'll have Champion Edelman, who will speak to you about federal and state programs. I saw her earlier. Champion Edelman.
I'm sorry, I was talking away and forgot to unmute.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Stacey Edelman, Director of Federal and State Programs, and some of the work going on in our department that we're very proud of that focuses on racial equity. One is gifted and talented education, and there is a specific goal in the district racial equity plan around identifying more students of color as gifted and talented, and that's really been the focus, the major focus of the gifted department going into now our third year. In the first iteration of the racial equity plan, the goal was to increase the percent of students that are gifted and talented that are students of color from 38% to 43%. And at the end of last school year, actually 44.53% of our gifted students were students of color. And we're working on a new goal with the next iteration of the plan to increase from 10% to 15% students of color that will be identified as gifted and talented. We are working to train our schools in how to apply special considerations that are part of the law so that we can widen the net and make sure that we are doing everything possible to find students who should be identified as gifted and should be receiving services in all of the areas of giftedness. We are also focused on getting in a partnership with the Center for Gifted Studies at Western Kentucky University. We want more and more of our teachers to go through the cohort to get their endorsement in gifted and talented education to grow the expertise here in the district. And there was an intentional focus to invite and encourage more of our teachers of color to participate in the newest cohort that just got started. And also the professional learning that our gifted team is providing to teachers in the district is always focused on racial equity. And in the Summer Institute, we featured April Wells, who is one of the national thought leaders in racial equity and gifted education. Also in Title I, where we help support our schools that have higher percentages of poverty. In the past 4 years, we have really tried to be intentional about how funds are allocated and where we're using them so that we can support the students and the schools who need it the most. We've grown from 93 Title I schools to now this year, 107 of our schools are getting those additional resources and support. We've also been able to provide additional literacy, math, and social studies resources to Title I schools to make sure that students in those schools have access to everything and more even than their counterparts in non-Title I schools. And with the Title II grant, those funds are specifically for supporting teacher and leader development. And we allocate resources to support other aspects of the racial equity plan, such as we want to get more of our teachers of color getting that national board certification. We support the human resources with their retention and recruitment efforts, especially trying to get more teachers of color in classrooms in front of our students. We're also supporting more teachers getting their ESL endorsements to support our growing number of English learner students in the district, as well as new teacher and new leader mentoring and an assistant principal's equity leaders program.
Thank you. Leadership and professional development. So Faith Stroud is the director over this, and she couldn't be with us because of a previous commitment. And you can see we've got some things in progress and some things that we've completed. And some of the things that we have in progress is that ensuring that we are targeting and being able to communicate with APs of color that may be interested in becoming principals, and she's providing workshop and different opportunities for them to be able to be prepared to be a principal. Also, things that have been completed, as you can see over here, very proud of 33% of our new principal mentors that we have are African-American. So to be able to help with our new principal mentoring program, because we know that we have a lot of young principals that are coming in. And so just working very hard, and a part of the Wallace Grant Agreement really focuses on that equity consciousness that we need to have. And so I'm very excited about that. As you can see over here, we're very proud of new leaders in JCPS, 33% of our new and focusing on having more minorities. So now I'll turn it over to Champion Reynolds, who will talk to you briefly about library media services.
Hello, everyone. I am Lynn Reynolds, the Executive Director of Library Media Services. I am glad to be with you this evening. Thank you for having us. And so what I've done since I took this role, first, we did an audit of our department and our schools. And what we found was that there was major inequities across the district with digital access and print access. So we decided that within our department and libraries that we would ensure that every student had access to a library and a certified librarian, and because we felt like they were the two most important resources. So what we've done since this tenure is we've purchased over 500 highly reviewed diverse books for JCPS school libraries. We've continued that trajectory every year. The staff librarians in the department have developed lesson plans that are culturally responsive to those books so that the librarians can share those literature and literacy experiences. We have provided professional development that was intentional with bringing in culturally responsive leaders in the field to share with our librarians each year at our annual academy. Also, we've purchased ebooks, more diverse titles each year. We brought Read Woke, the national renowned program that's going across this country now, this past summer. And right now, this past year, we rolled out the diversity audit for each school. And we have about 66 schools who have done now an audit. And we are creating a plan for them to improve their collections and share the right kinds of lessons and experiences for our students. We're continuing to work with bringing authors also. And this fall, Varian Johnson will be celebrating with the W.E.B. Du Bois and Engelhard in November. And we continue that through the years. Thanks.
Thank you, Champion Reynolds. As you can see, we're ensuring that our students in JCPS have what they need from our media services. Now we're going to move into our MTSS. That will be Champion Lawson.
Good evening. I'm Donna Lawson, manager of MTSS Academics. MTSS Academics is working to ensure that students have equitable learning and support opportunities that they individually need to be successful, so that they can stand prepared for their future and ready to learn. It consists of 5 core principles, and the link is there if someone at your leisure would like to look into that. It's in our logo as well: systems, tiered approach, necessary, data. And the one that I'd like to point out tonight is necessary, equity, focus. It's positive, equitable, and inclusive learning experiences for all students. Specifically, our team works to provide support to guide schools in consideration of student subgroup data so that they can make valid instructional database decisions, analyzing and identifying school and community supports, resources, and cultural implications so that students are receiving the support that they need, equitable representation in their MTSS teaming structure, and access to grade level content with high expectations. This focus is necessary to achieve our overall goal, which is to increase the number of students performing at or above grade level through acceleration opportunities and MTSS support systems. And specifically, our student learning goal, we're going to measure our progress this year average student reading and math RIT scores, MAP scores in every subgroup population will increase 5 points from September to May. To reach this goal, we're beginning a 3-year cohort that we're really excited about with Solution Tree, so that we're going to be helping schools both strengthen their MTSS processes as well as their PLC process, kind of going hand in hand. One thing that's not on this slide is we just recently received a grant from American Institutes of Research. They're going to come in and vet our resources to ensure that our team is providing equitable support that's quality to all schools. And then our team works to build our knowledge and our resources. Last year, we did a leading equity-based MTSS for all students by Amy McCart and Dawn Miller. And those are some of the topics that we regularly talk about in our team meetings. Colorblind, color brave, why colorblindness will not end racism, and the trouble with grit and growth mindset. So we're continually trying to have these discussions and sharpen our knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Champion Lawson. We are committed to making sure all of our students are exposed to grade level content because we know that is so important. Now we have Champion Isaacs that will talk to you about our professional development.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tara Isaacs. I'm the Director for Professional Development and Learning. And in front of you, you have a snapshot of 12 different areas that our office is focused on that we can speak to regarding racial equity. I would say that in a nutshell, the department focuses on programming. We focus on monitoring programming. So we have a really good snapshot about what's happening in our district with regards to professional development at the school and the district level. The first box is focused on our national board certified teaching. We have 2 areas that we focused on the previous year, and we have 2 goals for the upcoming year. The second box, moving across the top row, we have the district PD plan and the school PD planning process. We had 1 goal last year that we worked towards, and we have 2 for this upcoming year. And I do want to point out a special thanks to Champion Dillard for making sure that we really work on our district PD plan. We have a really strong task force already set up of people working on a different project that are going to be absolutely critical for this. The third box is our flexible PD days, where we do programming for 2 days throughout the school year for both our classified instructional staff and our certified staff. And the number of sessions that we have in the digital environment range from anywhere from 3 to 5 sessions. So you can see that we increased to 2. 2 of those sessions are included for this previous year. And then we also are increasing to 4 for this year that we're in. Moving to the bottom row, our department also oversees new teacher orientation and new employee orientation, 2 separate events. And one of the things that we did this year is, in using the virtual format instead of in person, we increased to have slides on to explain the racial equity plan, the role of diversity, equity, and poverty, and then also a specific one focused on implicit bias to make sure that there was a strong foundation in being able to see resources important to the district, and then also where they can reach out for additional help as they move into the school year. The middle box on the bottom row is our new teacher induction, networking, and mentoring. You heard Champion Edelman refer to that. Her work supports much of the funding and the work that we're doing. In addition to onboarding with our new staff in the district, we also are working with how to provide them with induction based on their survey data, and then also providing them mentoring support and networking. We had 3 goals that we worked on this past year, and I want to draw out a correlation between Champion Reynolds. We have the Gale Professional Library, which is a huge library that CDLI, MTSS, library, federal programs, leadership, all of these areas under Champion Dillard have kind of bought and purchased different items to sew into this program. And so in that same thread of having books available for students, we've also increased our professional learning books across our district. And it may be housed under our website, but the whole district, every time they purchase something, it goes into this professional library, and it is ours for the life of our district. So I want to point out that as well. And then you can see one of the goals that we have in this area. And last but not least, we have 2 areas in this last box. The Classified Institute. This is the first year we did something digitally online, and we averaged 3 sessions a day. And we made sure that we included 2 sessions were focused on racial equity or engaging students of color. And then for this upcoming year, we're already working on that piece right now, which we will replicate that to make sure that we have a very solid command of information coming out on racial equity. And then last but not least, our office interfaces and works with Champion Price's office. She has a group within it called the Deeper Learning Team. And much of her curriculum team and also her Deeper Learning team, we support and helping to program for things based on the needs we see in the PD Central surveys. And I'm sorry for using some lingo. The platform that we use to track professional learning across our district, we look to see what people say about their experiences. We look for feedback, qualitative and quantitative, on our speakers. And then we make recommendations to those committees on making sure that we bring them in on the larger scale. The other piece we want to make sure is that the attendance for the symposium sessions, I'll give you an example, like with Dr. Roger Cleveland's group, Millennium Concepts. We have access to be able to look at information from we're in our 4th year, we'll be starting at the symposium. We'll be able to look and see if we've increased the number of participants attending those sessions. In a nutshell, there are many facets of what this office does, but these are the things that we went after immediately that we could sink our teeth in, and then you can also get an idea of where we're focused this year. Thank you for allowing us to share the things we're doing in teaching and learning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Champion Isaacs. And as you can see, she is in charge of a lot of things and oversee a lot of things, and not just our entire district professional development, school development, but our new teachers and our national board, mentoring, as she said. So there's a lot that's going in here, and I'm sure you all are taking lots of notes to be able to ask questions. And our last slide here that we will be talking about will be Champion Foster. She will talk to you about grading.
Good evening. I'm Shalonda Foster. I am the Executive Administrator of Teaching and Learning. And so when you hear teaching and learning, 2 words that come out, teaching and learning. With our standards-based grading cohort, that is what we are working to change. We are working to improve learning opportunities for our students to make sure that they are more equitable, to ensure that the learning opportunities are relevant and that students have opportunities to show their competencies in a way that is not time-bound, because we know that students may not show mastery the first time around. We want to ensure that students are able to show that they master standards on their own time. And so one thing that we've done is ensure that there is training for all of our schools across JCPS to shore up those learning opportunities for our students. That includes learning, communicating with our stakeholders, meaning not only our student learners, but also our parents, also our assessment practices, and then finally, what does that grading look like for students? So that doesn't mean it's a one and done. So students don't just take an assessment one time, receive a grade, and then we move on. We teach, we offer multiple opportunities, and then we grade when the students have mastered assessments. That means that we are providing more opportunities to be equitable for our students. Now, we have, at the time that this slide was created, there were over 20 schools that were in our standards-based cohort. We've almost doubled that number at this point. That team of schools is going to have access to an expert who is going to help us create better grading opportunities that will, again, ensure that we have more equitable grading practices for particularly our Black and Brown students across JCPS. And at the end of the year, they will have a full implementation plan going into the 22-23 school year. What was important to us as a team was that we not only had our school leaders, but that we also had stakeholder input. So with this team creating this plan, we will have parents of our students who will have a voice on those committees. And because I want to keep this short and simple, I'm not going to read this to you. You can read this at your leisure, but we are really super excited about the work that's going to be done with the standards-based grading cohort and the changes that it's going to make, not only for our Black and Brown students, but for all of our students across JCPS. And I'm going to turn it back over to Champion Dillard to close us out.
Thank you so much, Champion Foster. So as you can see, in teaching and learning, we are responsible for a lot as far as the district, but we are committed to ensuring that our Black and Brown scholars are improving in their achievement. And I want to be clear about something, because a lot of people say, oh, well, we got kids that can't read, or this, and that. We provide opportunities and we provide resources, and we get those to schools. And then our team also, we have multiple resource teachers that go into the schools. They work with the PLCs, the professional learning communities. They help coach the principals and assistant principals, as well as they are working to work with the AICs, the academic instructional coaches in the schools that every school in JCPS has. So we don't just provide all of this professional development, we also go in and we're boots on the grounds with those in schools as well, to be able to help them with all of these services that we are providing. Again, we are teaching and learning of JCPS. We are leading, learning, and impacting, and we will be making a ripple effect this year in JCPS. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We were truly honored and blessed, and we will be taking any questions that you have at this time. And please know that we believe in continuous improvement and learning by doing, but together we can do all things. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna continue to let you be the host, Ms. Dillard, so that just in case you wanna refer back to any of your slides, but we're gonna open it up for questions from the ACRE members.
So I'll go. I don't know if you can see my hand up or not. I usually can't even figure out how to put it up, but I figured it out today. So a lot of great things that you offer, wonderful resources. And I often see, or I'm often in spaces where I see really, really wonderful presentations of different resources that are offered. And I'm usually more concerned about application and accountability. Because the way you close the gaps is not just by offering a lot of things. And again, I think all of those things are great, but what ensures effective implementation? In my role, I not only deal with things here at U of L, but also in JCPS and throughout the community. And I've had several parents and or teachers who have said that there are leaders and other teachers in the school that are making comments such as, I don't even know why we're doing this stuff. I heard you all talk about the library and how many resources that you're working to get in these libraries. And there is a school in JCPS who has removed some culturally relevant books from their library. So I'm just wondering, with all this great work that you all are doing, what are the strategies for accountability?
I'll start, Michelle, and then you jump in. So the way that first of all, I would love to know if you have specific schools, I need to know that. The implementation is the responsibility of the schools, the school leaders, and then their assistant superintendents, and ultimately the chief of schools, Chief Moore. We are the provider of the resources. We are we support the schools to make sure that they, to try to make sure that they are using the resources and that things are being implemented as intended. but you know, the true implementation, of course, is day to day at the school. Now, one of the things that we do, I'm sure that you know about, our schools do the empty, and that is monitored. So that is the monitoring tool specifically for our racial equity work. And that the things you're saying should come out loudly on that. And that's, you know, that's always in progress. I mean, schools do their plans and then they get feedback. But you even said you heard a school removed. So we need to know
Yes.
about that.
I absolutely will call and let you know.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't, and we don't play. For example, one of the things, something that happened, I guess it was last year, that was, it was not a good thing, but the fact that it happened, so what happened was we had a couple teachers in an elementary school, Indian Trail, who contacted me. Ultimately, they started with their principal and, you know, and their AIC, and they suggested getting to me, and they said, there are some books that we've come across in the curriculum framework that are not, they're not good. They have racist images. They have, and we immediately looked at those books and pulled them off. And then we did a full review that Jesse talked about. I mean, we don't play with this. And so what I meant by saying it was bad that it was there, and it had been there for, you know, years. But what was really good was that the teachers caught it. And the fact that our teachers, so many of our teachers know what to look for. And they're seeing things that they may not have seen before, seeing things through a different lens. So that was you know, that to me was really good. So, you know, there are many schools that are really doing a great job, but we, you know, we won't play with those that aren't. I'm anxious to hear more.
So just let us know who that is. We really appreciate that, Ms. Vasser, and it's good. And I've worked with you before, and so we again, that's why I stated previously that we're not just showing you this beautiful presentation here, that we do go in and we coach and we work with them, but ultimately to your question is, as you're saying, the implementation, and we can't hold the principals accountable. That comes to the area assistant superintendents and Robert Moore, who is the chief of schools, to make sure that what is being presented and resources are given, that it's implemented and taken to the desk of the students. But we're happy to help provide whatever it is that we can. And so we, you know, so that's a conversation to have with the assistant superintendent of schools and the chief Moore. I see Principal Owens has her hand raised. We'll go to you for the next question. You're muted. Yeah, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you so much for recognizing me. You all had a great presentation, beautiful charts. I couldn't read them because you were going so fast. Would we be able, first of all, to get copies of the slides?
Yes, the link is inside the chat, and then I'm sure Mr. Delquan Dorsey will be able to share it with the whole team.
Yes, I will.
Okay, my second question is this. I've been retired since 1999, but I used to be a reading specialist, instructional coordinator, and a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm really, really interested in Black students closing the gap. And I'm very much concerned about the reading. My question on reading is this: are all the schools using the same reading books, or do schools choose what material they want to use with their students? Did you hear my question?
I did hear the question. So who, one of you all, Champion Mattil or Champion Reynolds or Price, someone unmute and answer that question, please.
So the materials that the schools use as far as like their instructional materials, those are decisions that are made at the site-based level. So the SBDM actually adopts the materials that each school uses. So no, they are not the same across the entire district. We make recommendations on programs, but again, that's each school's own decision based on site base.
Well, I was thinking some of our Black kids move around a lot. And if they go from school to school, they start reading in one program, go to another program. And I wonder what's the impact on their learning.
Hey, those are great questions. And that is, if I could change something about Kentucky law, it would allow, I mean, for exactly the reasons you say. I mean, I think schools need some choice, but I think there have to be some givens that everybody follows. And that's just not what the law says. So what we do to try to avoid problems are to say, we can't tell you what you have to use, but this is what we will support. Meaning we will provide training, we will help you and your teachers with using this. And if you don't use this, you know, I mean, we'll help you if we have time, but there are no promises.
Well, I agree with Marion. I'm concerned about implementation and accountability. And that's one thing that we need to work on. My second question is about gifted and talented students. I know there's a test that kids have to take, and I know that Black students oftentimes are not good test takers. So my question is this: how much impact does a teacher's recommendation have toward that child's application for gifted and talented?
Those are very important questions, and that's some of the work that we have really been focusing on with our schools. And because there are a lot of biases and outdated understandings of gifted education, we're going school by school to help the gifted committees in those schools understand this. So your first question was about test scores. And yes, for the academic areas of giftedness, which are general intellectual ability, and then specific academic aptitude in English, math, science, and or social studies, there is a requirement for a test score, and it has to be a particular kind of test that's in there. But then there are also the areas of giftedness that are creativity, leadership, and visual and performing arts. And those do not require any kind of test score. They require, as do the other areas, 3 pieces of evidence that a committee must have in order to make a formal identification of a student as gifted. However, in our Kentucky regulation, there is also something called special considerations for identifying students from underrepresented populations so that we can get past some of those potential barriers like test scores, test bias, and teacher recommendations. And we want to make sure that teachers are not the only gatekeeper there in recommending students for identification. For the underrepresented populations are students of poverty, special education students, English learners, and students of color. And a test score is not required to be one of the 3 pieces of evidence for students in those groups. And so a school just needs to present 3 other pieces of evidence that would lead to the conclusion that that student should be receiving gifted services.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of other questions. I'll do this real fast. How are principal mentors selected?
We are selecting those with the new process that we have. So Champion Stroud, who isn't here tonight, she collaborates with the school assistant superintendents, and we talk to them about principals who they feel would be great mentors for our new principals. And we just do that as a collaboration, but we really look to see like years of service, the area that they are in, and, you know, to look and see if that's a good fit for them. So we collaborate with the school assistant superintendents because they work with those principals, but that isn't the only factor. You know, if they don't suggest somebody who we feel like would be a great mentor, then we choose that person anyway.
Thank you. This might sound like a crazy question, but on all your slides, you use a lot of acronyms. And if you're not in the school system, you don't know what they are. It would be helpful if somewhere in that slide you could spell out what it is. For instance, the MTSS, I don't know what that is. What is the MTSS Academy? Maybe I'm the only one.
Oh, no, ma'am. MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support. So it's just the concept of looking at the whole child and looking at what needs the whole child might have, and then making sure there are support opportunities that are equitable that ensure their success.
So that's, would you tell me what that is again?
Multi-tiered systems of support.
Okay.
We'll make sure that everybody on here, so we take that feedback, that's great feedback, and they'll go in and make adjustments, and where we have acronyms, we'll spell that out for you so that you have that.
Yeah, and we kind of running up against time, and I know Mr. Johnson had his hand up.
Yes.
I'd just like to say this one thing. Each of your people are very knowledgeable, and it would be really nice if each one of them could do their presentation by themselves so you can really get into the question. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, great presentation, lots of information. And ironically, my concern question based, I already had it written down, issues with book titles, because we've seen some stuff going on in Texas and what have you. Now, me personally, also as the chair, I think these things need to be addressed publicly. Or let me rephrase that, maybe not in secret. So when I say publicly, I don't mean a press release because somebody's thing had to be corrected, but I just want to make sure that other folk don't think those kind of things are okay. And you have so many schools, 5, 6, 10 different schools make the same mistake individually because they didn't know, mistake, air quotes, because they didn't know that it was being tracked. So I had some concerns about book titles and things of that nature. Then also, I was at one of the meetings at Central, and there was actually a JCPS teacher who felt like the REAP protocol, I literally said the REAP protocols are a waste of time. That concerns me quite a bit. And Delphine, I believe I asked previously, and the general counsel was supposed to be checking on our ability as this council to sort of review what schools were putting what through the protocol and what some of those outcomes were. Did we ever get an answer to that?
We're still checking on that.
Okay. All right. So then I'll just close with, again, the book titles is something that's extremely important to me because I think it sets a precedent and talks about how people think, where all of a sudden they're pulling books out without appropriate documentation and follow through. So, and I will give this compliment. I don't know who said it, but I appreciate the fact that someone said all students are exposed, because it actually annoys me. I'm very direct when they say Black kids need to see Black administrators, teachers, and this and that and the other. No, all kids need to see that diversity, because then we've seen some other incidents that happen. And when kids that aren't Black do not see Black persons as leaders and teachers and educators and so forth, that affects how they think as well. So I appreciate someone being very specific and saying that all students need to be exposed.
Thank you. I see Ava, and then Ms. Phyllis Clark has her hand raised.
Thank you. And I also just want to just thank for all the information that you guys just delivered today and all the incredible work that you guys are doing in the different areas. I do agree with Mrs. Owens that for me, for instance, I'm not in the school system, so I was trying to follow as much as I could in the information, also on my second language, but hopefully I'll make sense with my questions. The first one that I have is for the professional development and learning. I really like how it's laid out the different squares with all the information, and I'm very interested in understanding better about the orientation. You guys mentioned that you are intentional in including topics on racial equity and implicit bias. I'm interested to know if you're also including cross-cultural or multilingual basic training so teachers can work with communities who have different cultural backgrounds. And that is basically what is called today as cultural humility training, to be able to work with us across cultures without those barriers and understanding when we're coming from different countries as well. That's my first question.
Are you okay, Ms. Dillard, if I jump in here?
Yes, just go ahead.
So I appreciate you sharing that feedback. And to answer your question, I would say yes, we do provide sessions that cover a great deal of the subject of equity. I came prepared today to talk about racial equity in particular, but we are covering things with, I believe in the very beginning, I didn't realize you were speaking to me, but you were talking about students that might be speaking a different language, like English as second language or English language learners.
Right, how we preparing our teachers to be cultural sensitive and culturally competent when working with parents who comes from different countries. I might not speak English as the second language as well.
Yes.
Not
yes,
the first language, sorry.
Well, if interested, I can link the actual agendas that we've used for new teacher orientation or Classified Institute, the flex days, to kind of give you a sampling of what we've done along those lines. But to answer your question, yes, we try to make sure that we cover a lot of area with a very small amount of time. But you're welcome to look at any of the agendas that we've used in the past.
Thank you. Yeah, that will be great, because just to see some of the topics and what it is included and consider cultural training. My other question is a little bit around that as well. I know that you mentioned that you are pushing for increasing the hiring of principals that comes from the communities like Black and Brown communities. Do we know how many Latinx representative principals do we have up to date?
I don't know the answer to that. I can get that. That would be something HR would be know, and I can get that information, but I don't know that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Michelle. My last question, and I will be very fast. And I guess just curious to learn later when you're talking about communicating with stakeholders. And I really like how you stated that those are parents. Also, I believe in the agencies I'm working with, the refugee community, immigrant community, that is like a piece key piece, I'm sorry, that our parents really struggle to get that access to communication. Sometimes the kids might be fluent in English, but they are not. And that sometimes it becomes a big barrier between that communication and making sure that the students are approaching and taking the resources or having advantage of taking those resources because of that barrier. Not with the student again, but it's not a ESL student, but with the parents who might not be English speaking as a first language. So yes, I would love to hear more about that. Hopefully, like Mrs. Owens suggested, we can have individual presentations where we can learn a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Our ESL department is not in my teaching and learning department, but I can speak to that we do translate a lot of the communication information that goes to our families in the language of the home, because we are aware that a lot of them may not speak English. So we do have services for our ESL students and our families where we do translate that communication.
Right. No, yeah, and those are great, but I'm meaning no ESL students whose parents might not be English speakers. And those are situations that are very common to find a student who is fluent, born in Louisville, but their parents are not English speakers. So they
Yes.
won't be entering in that department.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We translate the information, we send the information home in the language of the parents that the parents speak that aren't speaking English. All right, Ms. Clark.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, dear. Ms. Clark.
And before Phyllis go, the rest of the council members, if you can limit your question to one, so the rest of the council members who have questions can get a chance to ask, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Boy, I enjoyed this presentation. It's some of the food I think that I've been needing to understand JCPS even better. And I know this was just a tip of the iceberg. So thank you all. It is, I feel like it's going to help me counter some of the comments out there that don't make sense to me, you know? And so I hope to continue to learn through this committee how I can again help to kind of counter some of these things that I'm hearing. And I understand about the implementation and accountability, and I'm a big believer and proponent of that. But I wanted to ask Ms. Foster really quickly. You talked about the slide for the grading cohort. Is there a list of those 20 schools that was mentioned? I would love to see what those are, or and if I could maybe have your office number or your email, because I have another question that I wanted to expand out, but I don't want to take any more time.
Yes, ma'am. You can definitely call me on my office number. It's 485-6028. I'm pretty sure that's the correct number.
Okay.
And my email is just Shalonda.Foster.
Okay.
At jefferson.kyschools.us. I will link the list in this slide presentation. It may be one day before I get it, because like I said, we did have about, we had, I think, 18 new schools that asked to join. But they are schools of all levels. So we have elementary, middle, and high schools that are a part of this cohort. And we are really super excited about this change. I think this is really going to be a real winner for the students here in JCPS, particularly our Black and Brown students. I think about my very own 5th grade student here, who she excels in some content areas and she struggles in others. And having multiple opportunities where she's not graded, you know, she does okay because sometimes she gets grades because of compliance, but this is a shift where we're not grading students on compliance. We're grading them based on what they're learning. And that's what every parent wants. That's what we want for our students. And so this is going to be a real winner for our students here. So yes, I will link that list in the slide presentation once we have it finalized tomorrow. And if you have other questions, you are more than welcome to call my office or send me an email.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Clark. We got Ms. Walker.
Yeah, and that's going to be the last question for this team. Any other questions, please write them down and we will get them to the teaching and learning team. And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for the presentation. And sorry I was late. I was trying to get into the wrong Zoom. But my question to Tyra Isaacs is about the PDs. As being stated, there are some teachers out here that think that it's irrelevant and it's just a waste of time. What tool are we going to use to measure to make sure that when a teacher goes in to will take a PD, that they are implementing what they learn from that PD? And specifically speaking of the racial issues and the racial PDs that are that are required for teachers to take each year.
So that's a great question. Where we are in that process is Dr. Thomas Gusky, who is a renowned researcher in the field of evaluation. He is working with our district currently, and part of our marching orders right now is we're looking at his 5 levels of evaluation. And right now we are operating in a level 1 or 2, where we're looking at people that participate in PD to find out how they feel about something, which to your point is not really going to the part of application. With Dr. Coleman and Champion Dillard allowing for a new PD platform to be rolled out this year, we're in the middle of developing our evaluation plan, and we're in the middle. The good news for the people on here in JCPS is it's live in March. But part of that plan is looking at his level 3, 4, and 5 range. And if you were on the very beginning of the call when I was doing my part, we have a task. It's called a talent task force committee. And that task force has been used to talk about what are some ways in which we can make evaluation, take it to another level. And even Champion Dillard has requested that we find a way to award badges for people that get to what I'm about to tell you about. So what we're talking about with that is currently our system is set up that if people sit in a training for 2 hours, they get 2 hours of PD. And the problem with that is we don't understand if it impacted their knowledge, their application, an attitude, a behavior change, or a skill change. We don't know what they went after. We just know they got an activity, but we don't know what it impacted. The new PD software that we're developing in the evaluation piece gets to a level, the next level, like with 3, with if within the 30-day period of taking that PD, if you can demonstrate an application of learning, we want to award additional PD credit to show that this person has mastered this. If they come back within that 30-day period and can show that it has impacted a system in that school, we want to be able, something where the principal has gotten involved and changed the system. That is another piece that shows application, but at a higher level. And then the ultimate level, the level 5, is where that they take that, apply the work, be able to show it in their system, and it translates to student learning. So we're talking about a level, the 3, 4, and 5 range of Thomas Gusky, who he's working with Ms. Foster with the standards-based grading, but he's also working with our professional learning piece too. So all that to say is that that is the piece that we're looking at with accountability. The task force makeup is well representative of everyone within our district, racially and also with regards to the zones in which they support. And then we also have our teaching and learning team in its entirety. Not everybody's here. That's also a part of that and helping to look at that accountability piece. I like the way you're thinking that also may be something that you and I talk about offline. If you have some additional things in addition to what you've heard, this is the time to do it, because Ms. Dillard has made a way for us to start moving on the anchor goals that we're looking at with our district professional development plan, and the evaluation piece of professional development is part of that work.
And I will say that Tara is a part of that task force team. We had a couple of meetings last year, so you're on that task force to be able to help create those badges. So the last thing that I would just like to close up with, Delquan, I want to say thank you again for having teaching and learning and my leadership team on here. We are very excited about the work that we're doing. And I really want to thank Dr. Coleman for her leadership as well, as being my supervisor. But as she said, I'm her right, I'm her left. We truly are partners in this work. And I want to say, leave everybody with this, because we are constantly getting questions, and this was asked by, I think, Principal Owens earlier, and Dr. Coleman mentioned this. I would highly encourage you to bring on our school assistant superintendents and our chief of schools, Robert Moore, to talk more about that accountability piece. We can only offer these things, as she said before. We've got resources. We go in, we do coaching with administrators and principals. But when it comes to the A word that everybody's asking about, accountability, they look at us as teaching and learning and saying, how are you going to hold people accountable? We don't evaluate principals. We don't do that. So all we can do is provide the support. And so if we want to be transparent about this, those questions need to go to the people who are evaluating the people in the schools, and they can talk to you about the systems that they have in place where they do hold them accountable. But we can't answer those questions. And I don't want you all to think that we can. We're happy and we collaborate, but they do have systems in place place. But I can't speak to those systems because I'm no longer over assistant superintendent over schools. But when I was, there were systems in place to ensure that we had those high expectations and held them accountable. But we in teaching and learning, again, we're leading, learning, and impacting to make a ripple effect, to be able to help improve here in JCPS. Send us any questions that you have that you didn't get answered tonight. And we just thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm gonna let Dr. Coleman have the last words.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And thanks to the teaching and learning team. I'm so proud of the work that you've done and that we've done. And I do want to emphasize that we are very accessible. You get in touch with us anytime. We will always, we're always excited to share what we're doing. And we're also always open for ideas and suggestions. We just want to do what is right and best for our children. So we're glad to come back anytime, and thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coleman and Ms. Dillard and team. We really appreciate it. We would forward any other questions, but we at the same time, I knew that it would be some of those questions around the A word. And so that's the reason why I wanted you all to come in first so we could get this portion. I'm working with Chief Moore to come at the next ACRE meeting so he could talk about some of the accountability systems that they have. But we're gonna go ahead and allow for the teaching and learning team. Thank you all. We're a little past over our time, but Dr. McPhail has been very patient. We're waiting on us, and we're gonna go ahead and allow her to share with us real briefly.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, my name is Vanessa McPhail, and I am the Community Affairs Specialist in DEP. And today I'm just going to share very quickly with you our DEP curriculum vita. And so under the leadership of Dr. John Marshall, our Chief Equity Officer, we were given the task, or really Abdul Sharif, who created this document, was given a task to combine and put together all of our work, accomplishments, experiences. And I just want to point out, I believe Doquan is going to put this in the chat because it is a link that everyone can have access to. But I want to point out our focus: racial equity, teachers of color, community data, MWBE, and professional development. And then it talks about our personal skills: community-oriented, reliable, and professional, organized, unapologetic, innovative, passionate, and motivated. And so what you'll see is this highlights our department. It talks about the different initiatives and programs in our department. The first one happens to be MWBE, which Delquan leads. And then you'll see LTR, Louisville Teacher Residency, led by Selena Fishback, the Employee Resource Groups led by Jasmine, and SPDM, Shauna Stanton, and it goes all the way down. So I won't go through each one. I just want to highlight a couple of them. Our literacy and programs, which we've had during the summer, literacy and yoga, literacy and karate. And then you go all the way down, trying to get to it, sorry. Okay, there. And if you look, it has our contact information. You can reach Dr. Marshall's secretary, Telva Hogan, at 485-3506. And then we ask that you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We have a QR code. So again, this highlights our work, our accomplishments, and our experiences, and it really gives you an overall overall view of the different initiatives and programs that we have currently in DEP. So I will not take up any more of your time. If you have specific questions regarding this document, please feel free to reach out to myself or Abdul Sharif, who created this document. And please feel free to share this document with your networks, because that is what it's about, allowing you to see the different initiatives and programs that we have in DEP. That's it.
All right, thank you. So on that note, I know we way past our time. I really appreciate once again teaching and learning, sharing all that great information. I know that we have a ways to go, but we have to remind ourselves that the work that they are doing is cutting edge when you consider what's going on with K through 12 districts around the country, and in the midst of all the backlash that we've experienced locally and nationally, we are still full steam ahead. We're making sure our students are educated to not only compete locally, but to be able to compete in a global economy. So, and to know what they need to know so they can make changes in our world. So on that note, we will not keep you all any longer. If you have any questions, please email me. I will send out the information from the minutes from the meeting. Our secretary, a wonderful secretary, Ms. Mary Barnes, has already finished the minutes from this meeting. So I will send that link out to everyone. And on that note, if there's no immediate questions or concerns, we are adjourned. You all have a nice evening. Thank you.
Recording stopped.